Hi there peeps, Dave Sinclair, multi-costume cosplayer here. I portray MacReady from The Thing and was asked by the nice folk over at Nightmare Machines to be part of their team for the weekend. As I film for a living, I thought I would see what footage I could capture. So here it is. Enjoy.
Hi, I'm Eleanor and I am in Nightmare Machines. I'm the partner of Nathan, who does all the sculpture and the building behind Nightmare Machines. And we got together maybe 3-4 years ago, and I knew from the start that he was a crazy genius who likes to build monsters. So we got together. I've always been artsy. And he said to me, do you want to help out with the sets that I build and the monsters? I was like, yeah, of course I do. Building monsters, a main room. And after we'd been together for a little while, I went round to his house and it was entirely filled with monsters that he built. And then he started to fill mine house with monsters. And it got so that both our houses were filled with monsters. And I said, come on, we need to look at something better than this because we can't move. There's a werewolf in the dining room. It's getting a bit silly. So we looked at buying a house and eventually settled on Ireland because we could get somewhere that was big enough for us and all the monsters that he wanted to build as well. So we moved to Ireland. We bought a big hangar studio building outside and a bit of land. So there's enough room for him to carry on building these huge monsters, although they still end up in the house. Yeah, they're all still in the house. But what we do, we build monsters. Nate does most of the main sculpting by hand with clay, and then he hands it over to me, and I use his lines, his sculpts to paint, and I do all the paint jobs on the monsters. And it's the final touch, the paintwork, but it only looks as good as it looks because of the sculpt that's underneath. So, but together, we're a partnership behind the scenes, and then we're a partnership with the job as well. So it's pretty perfect. We're making monsters together, carrying crazy stuff in and out of buildings. Our neighbors see us and we're carrying a werewolf or some kind of split-faced corpse. But you got to be crazy to do it, and being crazy and doing things like this means that you can create something amazing that people have never seen before. So you've got to go outside of the box to do that.
Nightmare Machines really began from the point when I met Dom when we were working in a factory, and to pass the time we discussed movies we liked, and I think he was pretty horrified to find out that I hadn't seen things like American Werewolf in London or The Thing and certain other Carpenter ones. So we started building a friendship and bond through that, and one day he came round to my house to see if I wanted to go see Prometheus, and he opened up the door and came into my living room, and I was building a full-size power loader from Aliens. So I think that answered his question. And then from there we started making regular trips to the cinema to watch movies, and each time he would come round, things were escalating into getting bigger and weirder, and the whole place was eventually filling up with props. And he said that this was ridiculous, that I should be doing something with it, and I told him that I would love to, but I don't know how. So he said, if I can become your manager, he said, within 2 years we'll be together in London displaying your stuff. And 2 years later we were stood next to each other with the power loader and Queen Alien, and from that point on, that's when things really took off.
So when we got here on Friday, when we're doing the sets up, the first thing is getting everything out of the van, checking that these things haven't been broken, and assembling them again, which takes time as well. A lot of the background set bits, they're all flat packed, so that's good. You can get them out, pack them easily in the van and screw them all together, and then get the monsters out, all their separate pieces, their legs that'll go on, and the tentacles. See if anything needs touching up. So I can go around with the paint that we brought with us, if they've got chips or slightly damaged in the journey, or when we're moving them in and out. Even though we wrapped them up with bubble wrap, there was a few little bits need a bit touch up. Luckily, on this one, there was no big damages when we took it out. You know, nobody's head had got knocked off or anything like that. We did get stopped at the Belfast ferry port. They wanted to search the van, and Nath said okay, but there's some weird stuff in the back there. And she opened the door and she saw those monster heads and tentacles and things like that, and she was all right with it. You know, it was weird, but it wasn't dodgy. So Friday we got here, was set up. It took us the whole day. I think we got here around 8:30 in the morning, and we were non-stop until maybe 6 o'clock setting up. It's not just getting out and putting stuff together, it's the set dressing as well. Everything has to look a certain way so that when people come past and view it, they're getting the whole shot of the monster as it's the best way for it to be seen. So viewing it from a certain point, angles that people can get good pictures with, some of the bits that are interactive, making sure that there's space for people to stand so they get the whole of the shot in the background, and it makes it immersive. It's not just, you know, a little monster. That it makes it interactive, and it makes it that much more than just the monster on its own. We had a good team of people helping us to set up and get it done quicker. And yeah, it looks amazing. And when you put the lights on as well, the lights add that extra something. The red lights that look like flares on in space, you get that little bit of animation. Yeah, it went together well. It's the biggest set that we've ever done. And we had a team of people that came from 2 different countries. We came from Ireland with the monsters, and then the rest of the team that were building the backgrounds and some of the furniture and bits like that they came through Somerset. So 2 of us coming across different countries to meet up and put things together that had never been together before. So trying to get it all to match up and fit together was interesting, but it all came together and it fit exactly in the space that we've been given. So as far as I'm concerned, it was meant to be.
It was great to see Peter Abbott once more, with part of his private thing collection. I had met Peter at a previous FTLOH, where I portrayed MacReady for the first time, and with both of us being ex-forces, we got on like a house on fire. He brought along a small selection from his private collection, but there was still lots to see, and people loved looking at his items. A week prior to FTLOH, Peter invited me up to see his private collection, and whilst I was there, I managed to interview Peter.
So you went over for the anniversary. How cool was that?
That was brilliant, yeah. It was, I put it out onto the couple of groups that I run, fan groups, that we were going to be going up there as a pilgrimage to the film for the 40th anniversary, but there was plans of rebuilding MacReady's shack and throwing huge parties, and in the end it just ended up a small party of 3. There was Zachariah Wilson from Wisconsin, and a gentleman named Stuart from Scotland. Yeah, so we all met up. I knew where I was going, so those guys jumped in the car with me and off we went. Yeah, and I showed them around the location. We had a couple of nights in Stuart, and yeah, it was good fun.
Any reason to go back again, or have you done it now?
No, I've been twice. I mean, if somebody wanted help in finding the place, you know, I'd be more than happy to tell them how to do it. There's a handful of people now have been up to the location.
So take me back to the time when you came across the road to a section. Well, you must have thought, oh my God, Can it be from the original chopper?
Yeah, well, I knew it was there because Todd had found it. So it was actually my girlfriend Ellie and I that went to the filming location on the first time. And I was just figuring out where I was on the set, you know, it's not a set, you know, where Mac's shack would have been, where the main building was, where the tool shed was. Yeah, I was working all this out in my mind, using the mountain ranges in the background, you know, as a reference to where things were. And my girlfriend said that there's a bit of metal, there's a lump of metal over there. So I looked over and kind of recognised what it was, and a walk turned into a skip and a run. Got over them, yeah, and that's where it was.
So you were telling me earlier about the different takes for that particular helicopter scene before we see the scene that we see in the film. Can you tell the viewers a little bit about that?
Yeah, so interestingly, I keep in touch with a chap in America. His name is Von Babatin, and he worked on the special effects of the film. He's a really interesting guy. He's got some great stories, and he was telling me about the initial in the Mike Plug storyboard, which we can show you. There's the helicopter crashes as it comes into the Outpost 31, and they did try to film this before we see what we see on film. I think they got through 3 helicopters, model helicopters. Just didn't work. It didn't work, which is why we ended up with the Norwegians landing and them blowing it up. When I met John Carpenter the first time, and he signed the rotor, he very kindly told me, you know, how they'd mocked a helicopter. They dragged it up from Stuart, you know, stuck it on a trailer, got it to the location where they did blow it up, and that's what we end up with on the film, yeah. So yeah, no, another interesting story about the rotor was it very nearly didn't happen there, because Ellie and I, we didn't actually travel from the UK to go to the filming location. We were over on holiday, and it's while we were there that we decided we'd go because it wasn't too far. So we set off and on the flights and the drive, like I said before, and it could only been 10-15 minutes away from the filming location. We were stopped, and as I mentioned, the gold mines were being recommissioned at the time, and we were stopped at a checkpoint and said, you can't go down there. So I explained to this guy, you know, we've come from the UK, and this, and he says, look, I just can't let you down there, guys. There's too much vehicle movement and helicopter movement. So we turned away. We drove away, and I drove about 100 yards, and I thought, I can't be this close to the objective, and you know, and not get there. So I went back and had another chat with him, and I just, you know, more or less pleaded. And in the end, the guy gave me a radio. He says, look, when you're driving down there, you're going to drive past certain markers. You've got to let the main office know that where you are. So we, you know, for the trucks and the helicopters, you know, so, you know, driving down and just say marker 6 down. So Ellie and I are driving down, putting these really poor Canadian accents on because we weren't sure if he was going to get in trouble for giving us the walkie-talkie. But yeah, bless him. So we got down, we did the filming, did the visit, and on the way back up, we stopped. I said thanks, and I don't know what to say to him, you know, because he'd been so generous. So I just ended up giving him loads of booze and cigarettes that we had in the trunk of the car, and he was appreciative. But yeah, if it wasn't for that guy, that wouldn't be him. I wouldn't have got to the filming location.
It was initially me and Dom for quite a long time doing this, and we ended up doing 7 cons in 1 year once, which was, it nearly killed us. It was a lot, but we were determined to get our name out there and to get onto the larger circuit, which was, once we got to London, it seemed to be a green card for everything else. And that's when other people started to join the team. We had my good friend Frank, and it was us for quite a while, and then Matt joined, and recently Eleanor has joined, and since then we've had more members, and the whole thing has grown since then. But there was a long time when it was just me and Dom, and there was hard times, but we both put in the work, and this is what's happened, right? So we're extremely happy that it's become something more than just the 2 of us, and we've got a team behind us now that we all work really well with each other, and everyone has their own bit, and we all complement each other when we bring it together. Like Eleanor said, this is a project that's been done recently over 2 countries, so logistically it's been a nightmare, but like that is in our name, I suppose.
So we build all the stuff, and then we got to get it here. We brought it all from Ireland in a big Sprinter van, packs all the monsters in. We've got to make sure that they get here in one piece or as much as possible, and it's difficult because they're crazy shaped things. And when we build it, we try and do it so that we're bearing that in mind. Certain bits do come out, certain bits of them come apart, you know, tops of big monsters come off, tentacles unhook, and they all come to pieces so that it's easier to pack them into a van or get them through a doorway. Some things, it's not as easy to do them in sections, because once you chop an arm off, you've got to get it so that you can put it back together, not be able to see that it's a separate piece, and also have it in the same position that you want it to be in. And when it's chopped, it makes it much more difficult. So some of the pieces, they do come to bits, it makes it easier, and some of the other bits, when Nate's building them, he says no, we can't have, that can't be a separate arm, the head can't come off, it needs to be one single piece. And then we have to maneuver that through doorways and pack it in the van in a way that it's not going to get broken.
So Pete, you've met John Carpenter on several occasions. Can you remember the first time you met him, and have you got any interesting stories you can share with us?
First time I met him was here in Manchester, actually. It was when he first started touring his music, his anthology tour, it's named now, but the first one he did was called Release the Bats. That's what it was called here in Manchester. I'd come back from the filming location the first time in 2016. I was sat at work with a friend, and he mentioned to me, he says, "Oh, John Carpenter's showing in Manchester." So straight away I thought, right, let's get on for tickets, you know. So I went online, totally sold out. There's a meet and greet that had been sold out instantly. So I was at a bit of a loss. I thought, crikey, how am I going to meet this guy? So I emailed his offices in LA, Stone King Productions, and explained the situation. I'd just been to the filming location. I've been unable to get tickets. I saw the show was on late, and bless them, they emailed me back and said, look, just turn up on the night, bring that, and just tell them who you are at the door. So Ellie and I went to the show. Queued to get in, got to the front. There was a clipper board for the meet and greet, because obviously you go there a couple of hours before the actual show starts, and there was a list of names typed out, and then mine was just written at the bottom, Pete and Ellie. Off we went. Off we went into the show. Got to the table to actually meet him, took this out, and he says, "Yo, what's this?" Because to him it was just a lump of metal at the time. And I explained we'd just been out to the filming location, and this was the helicopter you blew up at the beginning, and he was really pleased to see it. His son and Daniel Davis, who are part of his anthology band, they were a bit bemused by what it was as well, and John started telling them what it was, and people queuing up behind us to meet him started taking photographs of John with it, and it was really interesting to see how interested he was to see it. Yeah, I think he was quite impressed.
So have you managed to meet him again?
Yeah, mainly at meet and greets on the anthology tour. I've been to that whenever that's in the UK. I tried to get to all of them. I went over to Toronto to see him there because I was visiting friends at the time, and he just happened to be on. So, I mean, now that's where I've had a lot of this stuff signed by John. He signs 2 items per meeting, so I've got in excess of his signature 12 times. Because I've met him at a convention as well in New Jersey, but yeah, it's always a pleasure to meet him. I mean, people say he's grumpy. I mean, he does come across as that because he never smiles, but he's not. When you get to him and you have a chat, he's always pleasant. He tells jokes during his anthology, not through the show, but I think we were up north somewhere near Newcastle, and I think it was his son Cody's keyboard went down, so there was no music. So he started asking people if they had any dirty jokes. and people started telling dirty jokes. But yeah, he is a nice guy. He's accommodating to his fans. I've never known him to be rude. I've heard examples of people saying that he was rude, but you know, it's, you got to bear in mind the amount of people he's meeting each time he does these events. He might get tired. He's not young anymore, is he? But I've never had a bad experience with him. He's a cool guy.
There's always a lot of stress building up to these shows, like worrying about the space we're going to get and how things are going to be laid out. But on this occasion, everything worked to plan. It was perfectly fit, and the whole setup went smoothly. I couldn't have been happy with how it all looked, and the response we got from everyone was the best we've had. It's like the fans who came over, like they really care about this stuff, like these movies, and they could see that we really care too. For all the details we put in, it was important for me to have effects like the wet effects of like dripping slime and like the fake blood coming down on stuff. These are the bits in the movie that really stood out to me and drew me in, so I wanted to replicate that when we were building these props, so they weren't just static things. And to have the actors from the movie come over and not just say, oh, that's all right, like they hung around for ages, and they could see the attention to detail in every element. We'd gone all out, and it made it all worth it.
So this is our Darren, aka Bennings. He's been in costume all of 6 minutes. He's sweating already. Look at this sweat on that. Wow. Mind you, he is wearing a big parka. What's up to your hands?
Don't bite your fingernail.
Yeah, can't pick your nose with that one, mate. No. Enjoy your day.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, he loves it.
Fantastic. Thanks, man. Thanks so much.
All right, mate. No, you go on. I'm part of the team. Yeah, another Happy Thing fan there. So Nathan's just put up some goo, which is actually moving very slowly, as you can see here. Look, there it goes. It's all gonna go down here and make a gooey mess. So at the end of the day, it will be on the floor. But how amazing does this look? A lot of work, 6 months work, has gone into creating these sets. This was chest burster from 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I think. But he's had an extension on his neck, so he's taller than he was before. Okay, there's actually a queue forming now for the sit beside Palmer and have your photograph taken. This is where each person gets roped in by Frank, part of the Nightmare Machines team. Not supposed to be smiling.
Yeah, it's nice seeing the Palmer costume.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't think they've seen it.
So here we have Dom, part of the Nightmare Machines crew. Set up, looking like Blair. I'll kill you. Okay, this is pretty cool. So we've got a Palmer beside a Palmer. Yeah, that's very, very cool.
So we were here 2 years ago with our thing set, but it was a much smaller thing set that we had a couple of years ago. We just had the chest burster, Norris chest burster, a spider head, and the dogs in the dog pen, so it's much smaller. When we saw that the Ring guests were coming this year, and we decided that we wanted to come and do another thing set, we could have just come with the old stuff, we could have done, but that's not what Nate likes to do. He said, no, we're going back not only are we going to redo the monsters that we had last time, we're going to do more monsters, we're going to make it bigger, we're going to make it better. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then pretty much every day in the lead up to starting to build stuff, he was saying, right, we're going to do this monster, we're going to do that monster. And I think we've done 5 or more extra monsters. He wanted to do every single monster from the film. He said, if we're going to do a thing experience, we're going to do everything. So go big or don't do it at all.
One thing is building all the monsters and having all these sets and back walls, but something me and Dom realised quite early on was it becomes very static and lifeless. But as soon as you put the cosplayers in front of this, it brings the whole set to life. So they are such an important element to the whole display. Without them, there isn't much to feel and experience. But once you're next to someone in costume, it brings you into that world. So I just want to say a massive thank you to all the cosplayers that have joined us over the years, because we've had quite a few different people, and like it's really just made the whole experience and the whole journey that much better. So thanks, guys.
So you've met the awesome John Carpenter. Have you managed to meet any of the cast members?
Yeah, a number of them. The first cast members I met was at the convention in Monster Mania in New Jersey. They had Thomas Waits, who played Windows, Wilford Brimley, who played Blair, Richard Massaw, who played Clark. I'm just referring to my wall here. And Peter Maloney, who played Bennings. They were all a pleasure to meet. Really nice guys, really chatty. Richard Massaw especially, he was a really nice guy to meet. It was really nice to meet Wilford Brimley, because that was one of the last conventions he did. He died shortly afterwards, bless him. But at the same convention, a really interesting guy to chat with was Dean Cundy, who was director of photography on the film. He was away signing photographs and what have you, and then there was a break in the evening. We spotted him at the bar. He was drinking on his own, so myself and a group of friends we were with invited him to our table, thinking he would decline, but he said, if you buy me a G&T, I'll come and sit with you. And he sat down with us. Yeah, he spent about 2 hours just chatting away, got some great photos. And then a certain person walked past that he invited to the table, and down sat Nick Castle with us, the original Michael Myers. So we're sat with royalty at this table. For Nick stayed for a good half an hour. He stayed for something to eat. Had a great chat. All the guys were with Dean Cundy. I mean, he's not a hugely outgoing person, but just very, very interesting to listen to, and very accommodating to his fans.
The thing is, all of the stuff we make and all the stuff we build, like, is always so well received. But the thing people don't see and don't understand sometimes is that we don't have a massive budget to do this. A lot of this has been begged, borrowed, and stolen from places to bring together to do this. Like, we're literally going through skips 2 weeks before this event in Manchester, pulling out pieces of wood and tubes and pipes, and this is gold dust to us when we find this sort of stuff, because these are the bits that make the massive monsters and the massive back walls that I can't afford to spend all this money on wood. But we've just been clever and savvy about where we find stuff, and people have been very gracious and kind to us and let us have stuff like that they don't need. Like, we found a load of pipe in our garden that was just under some weeds, and that ended up being the tentacles for the Blair monster. Like, we just try and use what we have and what we can find, and it's hard sometimes, but we make it work.
I came down into our living room one morning, and Nate was in the living room with the chest burster under his arm and a saw sawing its head off. And I said, what are you doing? It's like 8 a.m, you're sawing the head off one of the monsters we're supposed to be taking to the show. And he said, it's wrong. The neck's wrong, the head's in the wrong position, it needs redoing. If we're taking it back, he's getting redone. So he sawed his head off, he changed the neck shape a little bit, repositioned it, and yeah, it looks a lot better. So that was definitely the right thing to do. The extra monsters that we've built, we redid the main dog in the dog pen, and it's a million times better than the original dog that we bought a couple of years ago. He's probably the one that I'm most happy with the paint job on. Spent a long time trying to get that exactly perfect, because it's the first one that you see, and it is the iconic kind of dog transformation scene. So I'm probably most happy with him out of the ones that we fought this time.
So on your visit with Ellie over at the site location, where did you stay? Where was your accommodation?
Well, both times have been over. We stayed at the King Edward Motel, which is in Stuart. And in 81, when they filmed the film, that's where the cast and crew stayed. And then a little further, when you get into Alaska, there's a town called Hyder. And that's where the main guys of the film stayed: Carpenter, Russell, Dean Cundy, Larry Franco, people like that. And funny story, they have a little bar there called the Glacier Inn. On the first time I went, it was shut, unfortunately. It's a bit of a ghost town now, Hyder. But on the second time, when we went with Stuart Cameron and Zachariah, we got Hyder Eyes. I don't know if you've heard of Hyder Eyes, but there's cast and crew tell stories on some of the documentaries about this drink. It's over 80% proof. It's just rocket fuel. And if you do have a drink, you get a little certificate, which I have here, that's to certify that you've actually had this drink. So yeah, we got some good photos in the bar, but we didn't have too many of these drinks. I think we just had the one and then a couple of beers either side. That was enough.
The Parma monster, he's probably been, I think, our most popular one at this show, because he's that little extra bit interactive for people. He's sat on the seats, and we made sure that we got a double seat so that people can come and sit with him and be tied up with him, like the scene in the film where he transforms and everybody's tied into that effing couch. And people love it. They love coming and being able to sit with him, putting the rope around them so they're tied up. And the sculpt on him as well. I think Nate's done an amazing job with the sculpts. I'm happy with the paint job. I was really happy with the teeth, the colour that we could get on the teeth. So I think the most interesting thing about the Parma monster that we did is his hands. They're interesting, and they're actually made out of dry pieces of seaweed that we picked up on a beach or on a dog walk. I picked them up, I thought they looked amazing, they're sculptural, and I thought, I'll get a bag of that, and at some point I'll make something with them with, maybe a mobile or some kind of weird, creepy sculpture. And when we were building Parma, and they said, what are we going to use to make his crazy tensible finger hands? We're looking around as we do what we've got in the studio, on the site. What bits of rubbish can we cobble together to make something that looks amazing and organic? And they had these bits of seaweed, and they are perfect. So they're coated in latex and then painted up, and they're just, they're perfect. They're amazing. And so many people have come and sat with them, and they think that he looks amazing, and they had no idea that his hands are made out of seaweed. So I think that's pretty cool.
Whilst building these props, there's always certain things we think about and talk about that would be the dream moment if it could happen. And one of them was to have the Parma monster, like, with Parma sat there. Like, that would be the dream, and it happened. Like, and same with the chess wizard. Like, everyone came over and signed it, and the people around, they were loving it. Like, just to see that happening, and it's just made it so special that, like, I actually now own a piece with that connection. Like, I don't know what else to say.
Give us a thumbs up, Nave. Give us a thumbs up. Yeah, he's still happy. He's on rope duties at the moment, giving Frank a bit of a rest. When Frank's not doing rope duties, he's the crazy Norwegian soldier. There he is. So we got Dom as Blair. Dom's got an axe. He's got a wee beastie coming out of his hand because he's been infected. Frank, the crazy Norwegian who's been shot by the looks of it. A shot in the eye, but still happy. That's good. Give us your best Ben Inch. How cool is this?
In your vast Thing collection, you have the Thing on 35mm. How cool is that? Tell us, how on earth did you come across this?
There's a gentleman in New Jersey called Joseph Passavento. He's a good friend. He was a big collector himself, but I think he's winding it down on collecting. He's concentrating on his author work at the moment. But we'd been trading, and I've been buying off him for a number of years, Thing items. And I always said to him, you know, if ever you think of releasing the 35mm reels, then please get in touch, you know, because I'd love to own them. And then last year he got in touch. He said, "Here's the big question: do you want to buy them?" So, which I did. So, yeah, he came over. I mean, bless him. He sent these separate to the canisters because he put loads more items in the canisters that weren't agreed on when we agreed on the sale. So he put a whole bunch of stuff in. And do know that they've had a screen in New Jersey. Another friend of mine, Matthew Giaquanto, he screened it with Joseph, and they had a look. I think Joseph was slightly upset with the quality, but Matthew, he said, well, you know, if you want a good quality, watch it on Blu-ray. But this is original 35mm from the day. So obviously it's not going to be perfect quality, but I have it on good authority before I get to see it screen myself. That yeah, it's a good copy.
And how many reels does it come on?
6. There's 6 main reels, 3 to a canister, and this is the original trailer on 35mm as well. I got this the year before actually. So that's only a short reel, obviously, and then obviously Joseph got in touch about the main ones, so I snapped it up. So it's a nice little addition to have them both together. But like I say, I've not been able to screen any of them. You need the projectors and the screen, don't you? But hopefully I'll be able to make it work one day.
Fantastic. And with the Thing written on the canister, that's so cool. Yeah. What have you got on the side of the canister? I can see some.
There's some signatures, yeah. Joseph got these on the convention circuit in America. We've got John Carpenter, Richard Masur again, Joe Polis, who was Fuchs. We have Bennings, Childs, Knowles. I think that's about it on there. Oh no, and we have Wilford Brimley, who played Blair. There, yeah, that's a great addition to the canister. The other one's clear. I mean, I love the canister. I love this little locking mechanism on the front. It's so oldie worldy, and you can tell they're a little bit beat up, but that just adds to its age, doesn't it? You know, and how cool it is.
I have to say, out of your collection, the one item that stands out for me is this amazing 35mm film that you have with the canisters. Just really cool.
So as we were getting down to maybe 3 months before we were due to come, as expected, Nate decided that there's extra things that he wanted to bring as well. So he decided he wanted to make the Chess Wizard computer from scratch. So we had to do a bit of research into what was the machine that they used in the film, what kind of computer was it, are there any measurements available for that kind of computer. I had a look online to see if there was, you know, an original, I think it's a Mac 2 available to buy, and it was definitely out of our price range to get an original. So Nate built it from scratch out of plywood. We had an old TV screen that he took some of the frame and the glass bits out of that to make it. And then he hand drew the screen with the chess pieces on it and made it look like pixels. And then we photocopied it and, you know, messed with it a little bit, and then put that in with a bit of perspex to get the green colour. We've got a light set in there. And as he was building it, I said, it's amazing, it's perfect. But one thing for die-hard, real thing plans that I think would be good is you make the little drawer on the front and let's put some ice cubes in there. So the scene from the film where Mac says the line that he says, and then he opens the drawer and he dumps his glass in there. So we've got some fake ice cubes in that little drawer there, and then we've done a bit of liquid residue in there. So anyone that comes over and has a look, if they have a little look down in the drawer, they'll be pleasantly surprised.
So Pete, in your vast collection, if I was to say pick 2 items that you feel these are fantastic and there's no way I would want to part with them, what would they be? And can you tell us some information about how you came across them?
Yeah, of course, yeah. I think my 2 prized possessions is, one is the remains of the Norwegian helicopter. That's a part of the rotor assembly. Anybody who's seen the film will have seen the helicopter blow up at the beginning. When we visited the filming location, there's not much of the set left, obviously. There's none of the set left, but there's bits of wood, brackets, nails, which you can see in front of the rotor here. But the helicopter, the main aircraft itself was removed, but just the assembly was left. There was a chap who went over in 2003, Todd Cameron. He's a super fan of the film. He recovered a large section of the rotor, as in the full length of it. He took that back to America. And when I got there, this was just next to it. I didn't cut it off or use any tools, it just came up and I got it home. And my second favourite piece is this. It's production used barrel. I'm not sure it's screen used, but this is a 1 in 6 Susan Turner barrel from the Blair Monster scene. Obviously the Blair Monster was a 1 in 6 set. This has been signed by quite a few cast and crew, and that's obviously been signed by John Carpenter. This was actually a gift from the gentleman I just mentioned, Todd Cameron. We met up for a convention in New Jersey a few years ago. It was a Thing reunion, and he brought that along and gifted me, which was extremely kind of him.
So the barrel, Pete, is that made of metal?
No. This might be disappointing to some, but it's literally just a cardboard tube.
Wow.
So it's been sliced. Obviously they've put this paper on top. There was like a white effect on top, obviously signifying snow, but because it's travelled around to conventions getting these signatures and stuff, it's kind of worn off. You can still see a bit of it on the top, but so I try not to move this around too much nowadays. But yeah, that's all it is, just cardboard tube.
Well, it's super cool.
And we had a big rusty army crate that was sitting right outside the studio door when we were thinking, what can we do? How can we make this blood bank lighter? And Nate stood it up on its end and he opened the front of it. It's perfect. It's almost exactly the same size as the one that he built in wood, and it looks more industrial. It was perfect. So we spray painted that up. We fitted a little shelf in the top where you could put some lighting in so that the inside of it's illuminated. He made the little hooks, and then they managed to get the blood bags slotted in there, and yeah, it worked really well. It was another thing that I think was meant to be, just something that was sitting there when we're thinking about stuff, and it's meant to be, it presents itself.
So Pete, I believe you've got illustration from the Thing storyboard. How did you come across that, and what does it look like?
Again, a collector in New York was selling this, so I managed to snipe it up. It's a Mike Plug, who did the storyboard for the film. He released his art book and did the Thing original storyboard edition. It was a very limited run. There's some beautiful illustrations on it from start to finish of the film. I mean, it's not the whole book is all Thing, because there's tons and tons of art storyboards he's done. And with this special edition was included an original piece of the storyboard, which doesn't actually appear in the film. It reads, Mac pulls out a bottle of booze, here's looking at you. So obviously that didn't happen in the film, but yeah, it's signed by Plug. There's a little thumbprint of his there. Yeah, it's a really cool addition to the collection.
I think a lot of our friends and family think that we're a bit crazy. They thought we were crazy anyway, but when we told them we're going to move to a different country and we want to build monsters full time for a living, they really thought that we'd properly gone up a cliff of craziness. But it's what we're passionate about. It's what we love doing. It's what we're good at. You know, we can create these things. We've got a really good partnership here. We've got a good scene behind us, and we can make it work. We can create these sets. We can do things that we haven't seen other people do before. So it's worthy.
So Pete, I just want to wrap up by saying thanks again for allowing me to visit your Thing display room. But one thing I've noticed that I haven't seen is you don't have in your collection the famous blow-up doll.
Oh, that's in my bedroom. No, it never made the film, did it? There's a couple of scenes from MacReady in his shack that didn't actually make the film. One was the blow-up doll, obviously. There's a picture. This is off a German lobby card for Das Ding of MacReady in a Hawaiian shirt in his shack. That never made it to the film. You do actually see the shirt in another scene. If you look under his bomber jacket, you can see the actual shirt sticking out. But yeah, the blow-up.
Which scene is that?
I think it's where Blair's smashing up the rec room, at the radio room. As he comes down with Childs, you can see the shirt on it. I might be wrong on the scene, but I'm pretty sure it's that one. Yeah. Another interesting one from the German lobby cards is this alternative death scene for Bennings, where he's having a screwdriver driven through his neck, which what looks like the kennel scene with the mesh and stuff, but I could be wrong there. But I'm not sure what the story is behind it, but obviously that didn't make it in the film either.
Pete, you've been a star. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
It's been very interesting to listen to, and hopefully the viewers who watch this will have found it interesting.
I hope they do, and thanks for coming over. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure. Thanks, Pete.
So now it comes to this point of the show again, which is a double-edged sword. One side of it is like a bit of sadness that the whole thing's ended and that we've got to take it all home and that it's done. But the other side of it is we did it and it all worked. Nothing went wrong. Like no head fell off or anything broke, and everyone was happy with what we did. And it's a weird, strange feeling. Also, we were taking more stuff back with us this time in the van, and I wasn't convinced it was going to fit. But with all the people around us helping us pack up and stuff it in, it was one crazy game of Tetris trying to get those monsters into the back of that van. But we did it, and amazingly, when we got home, yet again, nothing has been broken, which is a miracle, really. These are strange things to try and pack in with each other, and a lot of small items as well. To try and remember all this stuff is what people don't think about sometimes. Like there's thousands of little tiny pieces that have to be remembered and have to be packed in, and there was 2 van loads going back this time. So trying to separate the stuff out to go to the right directions was challenging, right? But yeah, what a ride, eh?
Well, that's it, folks. We've come to the end of this insight into the amazing skills and talents that all the crew at Nightmare Machines has. I will close the film with final words from Nathan.
So this thing set has been the highlight and pinnacle of our career so far as Nightmare Machines, and we certainly want to take this show to another event and show more people this piece of work we've done. So let's hope we get another go out of it, and I'm sure we will. But we also are looking forward to the future and working on other projects. Like me and Eleanor have already got a plan in mind, which we're starting to produce pieces for. there is other things from classic movies like Gremlins I'd like to do, right, and The Fly. So there's always going to be new things being built, and we also like commissioned to build props for people. So if there's ever an item that you can't find online, like I think we might be the people to do it for you.